Hi everybody, Thomas here, and welcome back to SFF180. Thank you all so much for joining me. Okay, on this video here, I am following up on Friday's video, my BookTube 101 video all about how to up your reviewing game. On that video, remember I promised I wanted to talk a little bit more about negative reviews, right? Bad reviews, pans, they happen in life. But what do you do about it? Let's say you're a fan. Let's say that you have just finished reading the new book in your favorite series and it has utterly changed your life. Or maybe you've gone to see a movie that you were looking forward to and it was awesome, or you've downloaded a new song from your favorite artist, or you've been playing your favorite video game and it's just really blown you away. And then you get on the internet on some website somewhere and look, right there is some asshole critic trashing the thing you loved. What are you going to do about it? How will you confront this horrible injustice? This video is, as you might have guessed, directed a little bit more towards the fan. But to be honest, even those of us who are critics and booktubers and reviewers are also fans, and we have also had this experience in our lives. It is no fun to encounter someone who has not managed to experience the joy and magic of something that you loved. To them it was something that they just didn't connect with, didn't like at all, didn't feel anything at all, it didn't move them. What is wrong with this person? Well, nothing is wrong with that person. They simply have an opinion that differs from yours. But it's a thing about human nature that a lot of people have a hard time facing differences of opinion, especially when it comes to something as deeply personal as a favorite book or a favorite piece of entertainment or piece of art. And there is a reason for that. A lot of what it means to be a fan, and here we are, for example, I am a science fiction fantasy fan. Other people are fans of other things. What it means to be a fan, the fan experience, is that you internalize your favorite entertainments, your favorite works of art. These were things that impacted you so powerfully when you discovered them and when you took them into yourself that they've become a defining moment of sorts in your own life experiences. They've shaped how you think about your life and the world and art itself. And so because of that, it can be very upsetting when you encounter someone who did not have that experience, and especially when they actively disliked it and are completely willing and prepared to mount a vigorous argument defending their dislike. Now, BookTube, we're a community of readers. I like to think that being readers, we're fairly level-headed and thoughtful people. It's not to say that fans of other things are not thoughtful, but let's be honest. The internet, well, you know, it is what it is, right? Social media has, in many ways, turned into this environment in which people just think, yeah, you know, I don't need a filter of any kind, and they allow themselves to erupt in the most overblown and excessive rage and hysteria over even the slightest perceived insult. So can I just put it out there in the interest of getting it out of the way that if anyone thinks the appropriate default response to encountering a negative review of something you loved is to send the reviewer a death threat, you need a fucking therapist. But luckily in BookTube, we usually don't have to deal with that degree of crazy, right? But we can sometimes encounter that person who is upset with us over a disagreement. And that is natural. Most of the time, that upset takes a very, very passive form of manifesting itself, right? You'll just get people unsubbing to you. Well, that's not really a big deal. Clearly, if that is a person who is not prepared to confront differences of opinion, let them unsub, right? People have to sort of grow into this understanding that it's a big, wide world with a lot of diversity of opinion at their own pace. Yeah, a week or so ago, Katie over at Katie Loves to Read, mentioned that she didn't like Patrick Rothfuss' novel very much. Hey, you're not alone there, Katie. And as a result of that, she said she lost about 10 subs. Sam, over at Sam's Nonsense, adorable Sam, she posted a negative review of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. In fact, she was one of about a bazillion channels that posted bad reviews of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And as bad reviews go, Sam's review of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child was excellent in terms of how to do a negative review. She was insanely thorough. That video was far longer than anything that I would record as a single video review of a single title. She was extremely succinct and clear, explaining where she thought Harry Potter and the Cursed Child went wrong. So she did her job as a critic to the letter, and she still lost about 100 subs. And that's over a release as thoroughly disliked by many people as Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Come on, nobody likes Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Good God. So it happens, right? You'll like something or you'll dislike something and you'll express your opinion. And no matter how good a job you do, how responsible you are in expressing that opinion, you're always going to find that one person who just isn't going to be happy with you no matter what. But you know, we're all human, right? And we all have that little bit of tinge of pain that we get when somebody just doesn't love the things we love. It's natural. So what are some good ways to go about, you know, getting over that? Well, first off, if you see a bad review, take a minute. Take a deep breath. Take a few. Look outside, look at the sun, listen to the birds chirping, look at your adorable kitten burying his poop. See, life is normal. Life is still going on. That thing you loved is still there in your possession for you to continue to love. Another person's opinion, even that of a professional critic or a semi-pro critic or a booktuber or a blogger, does not change that basic fact of life. And of course, the bad review might not necessarily be a good bad review. That's a valid point too. A good critic will write a bad review that is good in that it succinctly communicates and clearly communicates the critic's reason for disliking the thing, what they thought were the flaws, how they thought those flaws could have been improved upon, and why they thought those flaws were flaws in the first place. But a bad review, one that is badly written, those exist too, and it could just be the critic going off on some irrelevant tear, slagging the author, like I said on my previous video, making it all personal, attacking the fan base, just being more trolls than reviewers. But we're not supposed to be trolls, we're supposed to be reviewers. So you're certainly justified in being angry at a negative review of something you loved when the review was clearly written by somebody who's an idiot and is just being snarky and douchey for the hell of it. But then again, it's the really articulate and well-argued bad reviews that can hurt even worse, right? It's nothing to be embarrassed about that if you're not a critic or a reviewer by trade or even by hobby, you're not necessarily somebody who has worked on building the skill of arguing for an opinion. And so when you encounter something written by somebody who is very good at expressing an opinion and then backing it up with a solid argument, that can feel sort of intellectually intimidating. That person, even a good critic who writes a bad review, can sometimes, you know, make you feel not just intellectually outmatched, but maybe I really am an idiot for liking this. This person didn't like it and they seem so smart and I can't really figure out a way to refute them. Am I dumb because I like the thing? No, you're not dumb. And here's the interesting thing. You can maybe even read that review and take their points and think, that's an interesting insight. I still like the thing, but you've made some interesting points to think about. And now you're kind of coming across this enlightened path of understanding how it is possible to have a disagreement with somebody and not feel personally devalued, not feel personally attacked, not feel like this difference of opinions is something that you simply cannot face, but something that you can engage with. The guy who is my #1 inspiration for being a reviewer was Roger Ebert. I think he was one of the finest film reviewers, movie critics out there. Not necessarily the most academic. Don't get me wrong, he was a great writer. After all, he won a Pulitzer Prize. So he could be very detailed and academic and analytical. But at the same time, he was a populist. He was a fanboy. He was one of us. He was a geek. He grew up reading all the science fiction fantasy pulps. He knew how to talk in plain language and be relatable. And early on, back in the 80s, when I was very, very young, he and his colleague Gene Siskel did something fairly revolutionary. They created a movie review television show called At the Movies. And you know, if you're really young, you certainly didn't see any of these when they were first out, but there's clips on YouTube that you can find. Now, what was revolutionary about this show was, first off, it completely demythologized the critic, the role of the critic in the mind of the public. This notion that critics are these elevated, elitist intellectuals in their ivory towers who are completely out of touch, you know, with the tastes of the great unwashed masses out below. They're simply declaiming from on high with very high, lofty artistic ideals, and they really don't know what it is that the people love. Siskel and Ebert utterly threw that out the window, because you would watch their show and what you would see were two dudes talking about movies and quite often arguing about them. But you would watch Siskel and Ebert and you would say to yourself, that's just like me and my best friend, or, you know, my boyfriend, girlfriend, sister, brother, roommate, right? You know, we sit down, we argue heatedly over whether or not Batman Begins was amazing or whether it was total crap. You know, that's what we do as movie geeks. Exactly what these two newspaper critics are doing on TV. And suddenly at that point, reviewing and criticism became humanized.
My opinion is the Full Metal Jacket is not Kubrick at the top of his form, which we've just seen here.
Roger, it is not as good as those two films, which are among the greatest films ever made. But for you on this show to give thumbs down to Full Metal Jacket, I think is a gross mistake. I think it is a film worth seeing.
I'm trying to put the movie in a context, and I'm trying to tell people that it is not as good.
And this is the show where you give Benji the Hunter a positive review and not Kubrick's
Now, Gene,
film.
that's totally unfair, because you realize that these reviews are relative. Benji the Hunter is not 1/3 the film, 1/10 the film that the Kubrick film is, but you know that the same thing happens, that you review films within context. So it's not fair for you to compare those two reviews. And you know it, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
No, I'm not.
Even when they disagreed with each other most furiously, they were good buddies, and their arguments came not from a place of hating the thing that they were reviewing. No, it is clearly their passion and their love for the art form that made their arguments so heated. You don't really argue passionately about something pro or con unless you have this deep underlying love of the thing. So yeah, if you're still in this place of feeling very easily upset, easily perturbed at confronting a negative review of a thing that you love dearly, really go and seek out some of these clips, because it's a great way to just learn how to be completely chill about the whole thing. Here you've got two critics and you've got an opportunity to take a side, because if they're disagreeing, you're going to agree with at least one of them, and you know, it can be something that can hone your own arguments better too. Disagreements happen, you can have them, the world doesn't end. And also remember, no matter who is out there disagreeing with the thing you loved, I guarantee you that you have got an unpopular opinion. There is something out there in the world that is beloved by a huge fan base, and you look at it and you're like, whatever this thing is that's everybody's thing just isn't your thing. And you know, that's okay. And that's really all I have to say about that, okay? But I do want to wrap up with one more pointer, and this one isn't for booktubers nor is it for fans. This is for the writers out there. Okay, so you've written a book. It has taken you a year or more of your life. You have bled over it. You have sweated blood over it. You have breathed life into this creation, and now it is finally out there on the racks for people to buy and read. Your story, your world, your people. And it comes out, and some asshole on BookTube gives it a bad review. So, what do? Do you write a nasty email or comment to the reviewer? Of course you don't. Professional writers know sometimes bad reviews happen. Not everyone is going to love your work. And so you just move on. And hey, you know, it's possible that that reviewer who didn't like your last book might very well really like the next one you do. But even if they do or don't, you don't care. You don't write for them. You are out there writing to express yourself creatively. If it gets published and you build up a fan base, that's awesome. That's wonderful. But you should know, as a basic professional understanding of the world, you're not going to please everyone, and when you don't, just let it go. Because you can very easily Google the phrase Anne Rice Amazon meltdown to understand how you look when you can't let it go. And so, that is it. All my lovely, wonderful BookTube friends, that's all I have for this episode, for this follow-up to my BookTube 101 video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, hit the like button, share, and subscribe to SFF180 if you have not done so. That is how the channel grows. And until I see all you awesome people next time, remember, whether you like it or not, happy reading.